field is gonna have to do the walk of shame. We're starting.
Where in?
6:30. Are you ready? Okay, I'd like to open the June 14, 2018 Board of Health meeting. This meeting is being recorded audio and visually. So roll call, please.
Dave Williams,
Here.
Elizabeth Stevens here. David Adams,
Here.
Roland Larishell,
Here.
Tony Costelli.
Okay.
Okay, agenda item number 3, accepting of the minutes.
I will abstain because I was not here.
So we'll take them separately. So we'll do agenda 3A, May 10th, the May 10th meeting that was attached.
Yep.
It was attached to the agenda. Does anyone see any additions, deletions, or corrections?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, make a motion in a second. All those in favor? Okay, unanimous of all that was there. A working meeting of June 7th, I believe. Where do we go here? Working meeting. The working meeting of June 7th.
I'll make a motion to accept those minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
A second. Any discussion? Okay. Abstain. I abstain also. You were here?
Yes.
Okay. So if there's no additions, deletions, all those in favor? Oh, sorry. I wasn't here either. Same. 3 accept, 2 abstain. Okay. Agenda item number 4, citizen forum. If there's anybody who has anything to bring forward that's not on the agenda, please come forward. Seeing none, we can move on to agenda item number 5. Agenda item number 5, Casella. Did you get my text last week?
You know what? I wasn't sure what that was.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest
Doesn't
with you,
excuse
Dave.
them.
I sent you to my MIS department as a phishing alert.
Really?
And then later realized what it was.
That's
It
funny.
came into my company email. It didn't come to my phone or
I
anything.
don't know why.
It went to my company email.
Okay, so what probably had to do with me switching phones and,
Okay.
something, you were under something.
Because
I think
every week we get a warning about if it doesn't look right, if it does, hit the
Report
fish
it.
alert. So I reported you, Dave.
Nice. I
I sent you the fuzz, Dave.
SWAT
Not
team's gonna
feeling the
be
love.
interested.
That explains
That's funny.
the police outside my house. All right, so what you got for us?
I've actually got quite a bit to give you an update on. Construction is in full swing up there. We're pretty busy on not a lot of space. Next Household Has Waste Day, want to give you the date on that and then kind of give you an update on, I won't say it's an issue, but it's a increase in use of the residential drop-off. I just want to give the board a heads up about. So as far as construction goes, we're doing, there's actually 3 things going on. Bringing the landfill to its final grades. We have an excavation over on the western part of the landfill that we're working on. There's some unutilized airspace there that we're preparing to use. And then on the eastern side, we're doing that 7 acres of the closure turf cap that's going on. So before we are able to actually do any of the liner and capping work, we had to build a stormwater basin, essentially right out in front of the blue building. It's on side assigned land in front of the blue building. It's a sizable basin, but it's really meant to service the landfill in its full closure, so it's a good sized basin. I've been doing the updates, notifications, not only to DEP, but to the neighborhood group that blasting is involved with that basin. Blasting actually started yesterday. They did not blast anything today. They've got I would say maybe 4 more blasts that they have to do over the next. Sometimes they don't do 1 each day. They might do 2 in a day, depends on their timeline for drilling. So that's all going on fine. We got the permit through the Southbridge Fire Department, so everything is all set there. And then on the east, what we're doing is taking the existing roadway, which was essentially the perimeter of the landfill, and that has to get moved out in order to access the existing liner system. To tie into that, there's a very small tag on that goes on, then the slope gets regraded and the cap goes on top of that. So that's well underway. We're expecting that the entirety of the construction under the CAD 1 permit, that's the basin and that turf that I just explained, that is going to go in through November. Really all depends on the weather. Our permit has limited us to not be able to work Saturdays without DEP approval. That is a major constraint on a construction company. Anybody who works construction knows that Saturday is the day that saves you when it rains, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So with that in there, we have to try and work within those parameters. If we need to work a Saturday, we have to get DEP permission. DEP also limited our construction hours to 5 o'clock in the evening, which cuts about 3 hours of construction out of your day this time of the year. So I can't tell you exactly the day that we're going to be done because we have some parameters we've never worked with before on construction that we're going to have to work around. So that's pretty much what's going on with the CAD 1 permit construction. On the western side of the landfill, so this is the area in general above the leachate tanks. We have an area where construction soil was placed when one of the cells was being built, when there was all virgin material there. So when you go to build a cell, you have to excavate that virgin material. It has to go somewhere, then you build your cell there. That's been the process for the landfill as its entirety. That's nothing new. So we've got an area on the west where we knew we had some of that construction soil coming to the end of the landfill. We knew we had to go in there, remove that soil, and prepare it to accept waste over there. So that's previously permitted under the authorization to operate for that cell. So there's no new permitting or anything that has to happen there. So one of the struggles that we're having with right now is that removing that soil, it has to go somewhere. It needs to stay on the landfill footprint. We can't just, take it downtown and put it in a pile. It needs to stay on the site. So we've got some temporary stockpiling going on throughout the site. We've been talking with Andy about it. We've had conversations with Jim McQuaid about it as well. So we've got some stockpiles at the top of the landfill of soil. It's a temporary situation, but we don't have waste above any of our site assignment grades. We are working with the interim cover soils, so we have a place to put this material before we have to use it. So if you kind of split the landfill in half, if you're looking down on the top of the landfill and you split it in half, there's a southern end and there's a northern end. So we're working in the northern end right now, bringing all that up to the final waste grades. The southern end of it, we've pretty much got there. I couldn't tell you within the inch without the survey crew. And the southern end is where we're doing some of that soil stockpiling. And Andy and Anna have come up and had a conversation with me about it, wanting to have a full understanding of why we've got that material there, what it is, how long it's possibly going to be there. Is that an issue with your site assignment? So those are the things we've been talking about. I don't know if you wanted to add to that or not, maybe.
Just want to jump in. The site assignment very clearly, condition 13. The modified site assignment allows the landfill facility to be completed to a maximum fill of 850 above mean sea level, 852 above mean sea level, including the final cap. So the waste plus approximately 2 feet brings you to 852. The site assignment condition says the final fill, the maximum fill. We are working with a temporary thing at 854. It has raised some interest at DEP why it went to 854 when the limit is 852. I've been talking with Tracy, and we are assured that it is a temporary storage situation. But my concern is what drove the 852-foot elevation in the first place. If it was driven by a safety issue, then even temporarily being above 852 is of at least modicum of concern. So I told Tracy today that I realize it's temporary. She assured me that it would be no more than a month, maybe a month and a half at best. I feel that we should reach out to the airport, which is the only one I would think would be affected by a hike there. And I would propose to the board that I send a memo to the airport manager and ask him if the 852 is I believe it's a down leg of your approach pattern. If the 852 is of concern to that, how much concern to that, and does a 2 to 3 foot increase over that temporarily. I have no concerns that the final elevation is going to be 852. It's this temporary situation. Does it present a threat to aviation? So
I think it's a great question to ask. We're happy to work with Andy on it, that's why we've been having these conversations. When you look at it from a construction aspect, it's very difficult to get the landfill built to closure without having some sort of an interim condition to allow us to build it. So, that's where I'm looking at it from my part of the table, but I completely understand Andy's part in the conversation, and I'm happy to go through that exercise.
again, we have to realize that the soils she's excavating have been landfill soils and can never exist outside a landfill again. So we have to find somewhere within the perimeter of the liner. It can't go to the northern stockpile where it would be lower. It has to stay above the lined landfill because there's a potential for leachate coming out of it that could be COM97 leachate, or now that we're right near the trash level, it could even be contaminated by the trash. So it has to stay somewhere.
It is clean soil, it's not soil that was brought in as COM97, but we feel it's the best thing to do with it is keep it on the landfill footprint, because it has been in place. 99% of it has not been in contact with waste, but we feel it's the right thing to do, it's the right way to handle the material. And unfortunately, the smaller you get, your options are not there.
So I propose to the board that if they feel it's an immediate concern, they should take action. However, I would recommend that you find out if it's immediate concern, reach out to the airport. They would be the only ones I would know that would have a safety concern regarding it, and possibly take it up at our next meeting based on whatever answer they give. I'll get a memo out tomorrow or Monday, and just try to get the airport manager's opinion back. He can go up to FAA or whatever he needs, his resources to find this out. But I would leave it up to the board what action they want me to take.
And we need all the soil. We need all of it to get the interim cover on the landfill. It's not like we could try and turn a profit and sell it to somebody. We need it. It can't go away.
Yeah.
I don't know. Think the only put, so DEP's got a problem with that. And not a major
They
problem.
asked a
They asked
question.
about it.
They asked me a question.
But they're accepting of it.
They
That
asked
is
me
their
that.
only temporary.
But the
They asked me
852 was
that.
our contract. That's,
The
that
852 is a
Right.
final,
Height of the landfill.
was the final height, and that had a lot to do with the airport, which is,
But are we sure who came up with that number and the reasoning why?
I asked
We have
Anna.
That
to
is
do-
still, that's what's still out.
I asked Anna to do research on that, and she went through all of the testimony from 2008 and 1999. She is going further. I guess there was a set of testimony that, without getting too deep into it, we started a hearing, and then the hearing was determined to be invalid because we didn't notify somebody. So all of that evidence was introduced into a new, so she's going through that right now, but we cannot find the origins of the 852.
Dave,
So I would recommend getting with Ron over at the airport manager, because when I took a tour of the airport, that was something that he had brought up actually of concern, that there was a limit, there was a cap, that you couldn't go further because of the approach pattern. That's what it was. Now, he would know better than us because he's been there 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
and he's studied that thing inside out and rebuilt that place, so he would know.
So-
I would recommend.
I'm with Dave, because if it's an issue with the airport, for whatever reason, then we need to stick to the 852. If they're like temporary,
And if it's an
temporary.
It could be an
FAA
FAA thing, yeah.
And they had wiggle room, we can identify the wiggle room, and then if it's a temporary thing for X amount of time, then make
you
everybody
have-
happy and move
Because
on.
even the FAA, with the size of the trees are out there, they're having to buy machinery to actually cut those trees down and bring it back down.
Yeah, that's their direct approach. The
So that's-
landfill
that's
isn't
it.
the direct approach, but I think this is the best way to do
Yep.
it.
Okay.
We need to get the landfill to completion. There's going to be an interim condition to be able to do that, and I think it's better that we communicate about it.
So we're several months before that becomes critical for you, right? So right now, are you?
It's there.
are you-
No, it's
Well, it's there now.
Yeah, I mean, there's soil being stockpiled there now.
But what I'm saying is that if it turns out to be the 852 is the limit, you would have options.
Well, I was already describing to Andy, we're kind of already on the downhill slide of this going from a temporary situation to not a situation anymore. I mean, it's fluid, the soils are coming out of the excavation and being used, coming
So
out of
you're
the
just getting
excavation and
narrow,
being
it's
used.
just because,
Yeah, this is a very narrow window, but I think it's much better that we all discuss it as part of the conversation. So that's construction. Next household has waste day is January, right? June 30th, regular time from 9 to 1. Encourage all to come. And then we've, as of recent, and I'm not sure exactly what the big driver is for it, but at our residential drop-off, which is open every Saturday from 7 till noon, we are getting a lot of the bulky material. A couple hours into operation, the can is full and the ground is filling. So I have a solid waste permit for that facility, so I need to manage it in, as I would the landfill itself. So we are talking with our folks who are talking to people who are coming in and reminding them that this is a residential convenience drop-off. This is not household has waste day where you can bring up a couple loads when you're cleaning out your attic or your basement or tearing down a porch. This is a permitted with limits on it. So we're gonna need to start talking with people and being a little more stringent on the landlords who show up with a pickup truck load and say, the Board of Health told me I could come. We get those stories all the time. So in order to be able to have space, we're really gonna have to start having those conversations, what may make your phone ring. So I just wanted to make the board aware.
I'm unaware of the board has ever
We
said,
hear all kinds of stuff, so it's not,
they would get a,
well, I think some people think if they say that, we'll
they
just
would,
let
they would
it
have a
go.
special pass.
Go with Dave.
A hallway
pass,
It's a
yeah.
hall
And I'd
pass.
be like, oh, I gotta send this to
They still have
MIS.
the Tuesday pickup in front of the house
They
anyway.
get the bulk pickup is still, Andy
Yeah.
said that is really growing
Yes.
too.
Exploded. We've
Yeah.
got 3 pages this week.
That's good.
Well, that's.
We
But
just
that's
also on the
because they
side of
know
the
you're
road.
closing.
Because
It could
people
very
know
well
it's-
be.
right.
It's that time.
It could very well
I'm
be,
thinking
but
the same
what I've got as much
Yeah,
on the
because
ground
I'm
as I have in the
thinking-
can, I can't swap out cans during that time frame.
Okay.
I've got to, and then I have people having to manually pick all that stuff up and put it in. We're gonna have to push back a little.
Okay. Well, you don't take wood a day, so what's the big,
The
what are
bulky,
they?
the bulky stuff that we can take, it's meant for furniture pieces, a mattress, it's meant for those kinds of things. But folks are showing up with a pickup truckload,
They're
cleaning out,
kids' toys or something.
cleaning out their basement, cleaning out their attic, or, took down the landscape beds. That's not what that drop-off is for. So try and keep, if you think of it, the way that I try to explain it is kind of try and keep down on illegal dumping. I don't know how to get rid of this mattress, whoop, on the side of the road it goes. That's really the things we're focused on there.
Okay,
All right,
all set.
that's all I have.
Excellent, any other questions for Tracy? Okay, yeah.
So just back to the construction with the airport. So if the airport says there is an issue, what action's gonna be taken?
Well, let's
Yeah,
cross,
Oversight committee.
we'll cross that bridge, because
Well-
that right would be a concern.
If the airport says that there's an immediate concern, Anna and I will be.
All right, so it's not gonna wait
At least
until.
discussing.
No, and like I
Okay.
said, we're already on the other side of
Right.
going from this temporary condition to no longer being a condition. So we're working at finishing it off.
So hopefully, when I bring it back to this board, it'll be a report on what we did, rather than you guys gotta make a decision now.
Okay.
Okay, all set? All right, I would like to suspend the agenda and go to public hearing. We have an invitation for Southbridge RE LLC. Rita, what's the ERE?
Real estate,
Real estate. I thought it meant,
reality check.
yeah, good. But anyway, are they here? Yes, come on out, come on down. Just give us your name.
Hunter Foot, Manager of Southbridge RE LLC.
RE LLC. So. So, what do you want to tell us?
What would you like to know?
Okay. So questions? What's that? All right, well, we'll start with that. It's a good idea. Rundown.
On,
Mr. Foot.
board asked Mr. Ford to come here following a conversation about 111 Main Street and 111 Central Street and 66 Central Street specifically. I have reported to the board on several occasions that we do have a demolition order on 66 Central Street, but that soon after we got that order, Mr. Foote approached me, requested how can we save 66 Central Street. After a lengthy conversation back and forth between Mr. Foote and myself, we determined that if he could show us that he's got a heart in this town and is going to put an effort into things, that I might work with him on 66 Central. That led to wrapping 111 Central Street into it. As it stands right now, we have a watertight shell or a watertight roof on 111 Central Street, although the rest of the building may be commented as blighted. There still remains some work to be done on the roof on 111 Central Street, but my agreement with Mr. Foote is that we are not going to visit 66 Central Street until 111 Central Street roof has been made weather-tight, properly finished, signed off on permit, so that the commercial occupant there can continue to be an occupant there. That is what we said right now on it. Accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to respond to what Mr. Pelletier said before we get to questions from the board?
Nothing directly. It was my understanding that there was a watertight shell on the roof. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it is watertight. It could sit there for 10 years and not leak water.
It's watertight. The roof
The-
system is not complete, but it is watertight.
Due to lack of insulation, I believe.
Yes.
And is that work ongoing the last time you went there and inspected?
I have not seen work go there for probably 3 to 4 weeks,
Okay,
ever since I got it watertight.
okay. Okay.
Okay. So, start from the left.
I've got many concerns on that building, and from conversation I'm hearing right now, often, it seems to me that, how often do you frequent the building?
I was there today. I visit maybe once every week or once every other week. My brother, who's my property manager, goes by the building at least once a day, doesn't necessarily go in the building once a day. Myself or people that work for me have not been going in as much because we have Gabriel McCarthy, who we all really, he's been working substantially in the building. He stripped the roof, re-roofed it, and he's been on point there. I know there was concern with the windows. I spoke with him this evening before this meeting, and he informed me that he was going back to remedy the windows tomorrow. And the ultimate plan with the building is to sell it to the McCarthy family. I'm not sure which company, but the plan is to sell it to them, and they have a vision for residential production.
I mean, the future plan is all well and good and fine. My contention, since I got on the board, was a simple fix. And my complaint has been the windows. And even today, looking at them, double hung windows with double hung storms. And there has been windows that have not been tended to and wide open since I've been on this board and prior, which, looking at it, is a simple fix by raising one of the double head storms, the double hung storms, to keep the birds that I've seen going in and out, where we have, like Andy said, we have a business that is thriving on the first floor, that employs people, and if there is weather and critters that get into the building because of simple open windows, that then this board and the inspections has to vacate, that bothers me when it's a very simple fix that the responsible parties for that building should have the professionalism to make sure that it's, like you say, the building, the roof is watertight, but the rest of the building is not. And it's not a $30,000 bill to seal up the windows. And that has been a bone of contention of mine since I've been on the board. I don't like to see, I used to be a multifamily owner. Our downtown needs help. I can understand when people need time because it's financially like your roof. There was arrangements made, money was made, it's getting done. Some things take time, but some things can be done tomorrow. And they've been lacking, and that has been bothering
Okay.
very much.
Okay.
That's all I
Okay.
have right now.
Thank you. Beth?
So you own the building. How long have you actually owned that building?
So that building specifically is owned by 1211 Central Street LLC. Me as in the entity has owned the building for maybe 3.5 years.
Okay. So that predates the fire.
Correct.
Okay. And now you've made arrangements with Gabe McCarthy to take over all the work that needs to be done on this building in the hopes that he is going to purchase it, or?
We have a contract to purchase.
Okay.
That's with his attorney right now. He has the financing lined up, and he's telling me that by the end of this month, that I can represent to you guys that it should happen. But we are more than willing and ready to sell. It just has to get through. It just has to get through.
Because we've had this conversation for months, in fact, even longer than that, as to the condition of this building, and Andy has continually been in touch with you to try and remedy this, and you've just been dragging your feet. I just don't understand why it's taking so long for you to do anything with this property.
We didn't have money for the longest time. And banks do not like to lend in this town. They especially don't like to lend downtown. The reputation of downtown Southbridge is very difficult for buildings that have commercial components to it. So much so that every bank that I've spoken to, they do not consider any of the commercial income when underwriting the property. And with this property and the other properties that we own downtown, they have significant commercial occupancy and income components. And it is not something that banks want to do, to rely on that income for repayments. So we were working with Country Bank, we've worked with Hometown Bank, we've worked with Millbury National Bank and North Brookfield Savings, none of which would do this. Our financing that we finally lined up to do this roofing work, not even against this building, but against a different building, was from Carlsbad, California. I'm paying 10.5%. I had to pay a number of points and a couple of maybe 10 or 15,000 in closing costs. Not optimal financing, not my first or second or third choice or fourth choice for financing. But it got to a point where something needed to be done, and we bit the bullet, we did that. It's going to have significant future ramifications for our ability to do things in downtown Southbridge, given that we've had to get such expensive financing, but the roof needed to be done. The insurance coverage, if my memory serves me correctly, on that building was actual cash value coverage and not replacement cost coverage, so there was perhaps significantly less in money coming in than there was in expenses going out related to the building. So the initial delay up until the roof started was lack of money. And after the roof has been started, it's not lack of money, it's just, I point noted with the windows. I did have a conversation with Gabriel about a week ago. I informed him that that was top on a priority list. He said he was going to get to it. I told him that again earlier today, that that will probably be on the agenda, and I will talk to him about it tonight. And if something doesn't get done by him, then I will see to it that somebody on my staff goes and takes care of the windows. Beyond that, the holdup was finances, and we have resolved that by closing refinance on 320 Main Street, which is the building around the corner.
So what are we, I'll actually let you guys continue before I.
We'll get back to you.
That's the Goodwin building?
Okay.
Which building?
The Goodwin building.
The one that was his unit.
No, that one is to the, 320 is, 318.
Oh, is that the one that's currently has all the vacant
Correct.
downstairs? There's a dead bird in the window. Maybe you
there-
can have somebody go in and get that dead bird out of that window. I saw that today.
Okay.
That's a little unsightly.
In the right-hand storefront?
Yep.
Okay.
Dave?
So,
So you're getting in somewhere.
And that's in the other building.
So my concern here is the fact that, we're talking about lack of money, that you're dealing with Andy about the other property on Central Street, then the guy. So, not even asking that question of how that's gonna be financed or fixed back there, because that was a drug house, drug issues. Took our resources from the town to fix. And I'm a rental owner myself. We've closed and attempted, I mean, motions to close lesser of what you're providing this town because of the blight. We have blight laws in this town, and I'm asking you right now to respect those blight laws and start cleaning up your properties, because you're responsible for it, regardless of the finances or not. But I will tell you, I have no problem making a motion to make whatever we have to do to tear down that yellow house in the back. And I also know that Rosemary and them downstairs, if I'm not mistaken, haven't they helped you get grants and some loans for those properties?
There was a grant in place in the past for 1 to 11 Central Street that fell through due to bids coming in too high for the work that was done. But Rosemary's been very helpful, the planning department has been very helpful in economic development, helping us with our attempt at doing the residential project in 1 to 11.
All I'm gonna ask you to do is start cleaning up your mess that you purchased. Because I have no problem making a motion to tear down that or take that piece of property over for the town. None whatsoever. I've done it before. I'll do it again. I'm just asking you to be a responsible property owner for this town. I got it. I got it. There's other people too, and I understand that. But we gotta start somewhere. We gotta continue on, and we gotta move this town forward. I saw your, wasn't sure if it was a news article or a video that had been done about you, and we really look forward to you doing some of the things that you promised for this town. You haven't kept that promise. So I'm just gonna ask you to do that. If not, I have no problem coming down here and making a motion to do exactly what the judges authorized us to do.
Okay.
All right?
Beth, get back to you. Did you want?
Well, no, I mean, I was, to add to what Dave was saying, I was gonna get to that property. Have you considered that maybe you have bitten off a little more than you can chew? Because it seems to me that pretty much most of the properties that you have are unsightly in this town. There's work that has been promised that hasn't been done, and you have people who have moved into your properties and have moved out because you're not taking care of them as a landlord. I've continually been concerned about 66. I've been on Andy about this for a very, very long time. That needs to just be gone. That needs to come down. Because I cannot see, with your current situation, I don't see how you can get financing to bring that building up to code to have it inhabitable ever again.
Can I go second?
Yeah.
Is your attempt to sell this property to be able to fund that 66 Central Street?
Could I respond to 3 questions that have been raised?
Sure,
in our
sure.
conversation? The first of which was funding for the development of 66 Central Street, which is a 3-family in the back, which is currently boarded up, condemned, and on a demolition order. The other question was in relation to whether I've bitten off more than I can chew. And the third, which is whether I'm going to sell a building to pay for another building. Could you clarify whether I'm going to sell which building to pay for which other building?
Just the one that Gabriel's working on.
Okay.
111.
If I can respond to that, 1 to 11 Central Street, the way that the deal is worked out, I will have to come up with $25,000 in order to sell the building. Given that the financing that was in place was predicated on the grant going through. The grant did not go through, so there is, it is underwater, as they say. So we have $25,000 allocated to pay down the note in order for Gabriel to be able to buy it. So no, there's no proceeds coming from that. On the other question about funding 66 Central Street, the money to rehab 66 Central Street has and is currently in place for $50,000 or so, between $50,000 and $55,000, which is ready and willing and able to be released as work gets completed on the building. We have been ready to start work or start conversations about the building. I understand that the board's focus is on 1 to 11 Central Street, so that's what we've been doing, but as soon as we have authorization to have a conversation, I'll come down to Andy's office, which I've been trying to do for a number of months, and come up with a plan, a timeline, get a contractor in there, get an engineer in there, and start work on 66 Central, because that funding is in place. However, I cannot use that money for 1 to 11, I can't use that money for any other buildings. It is a construction loan secured with that building and allowed to only be used on that building. And the funds will be released upon phased completion of work. And on the third question, which is perhaps a good one, did I bite off too much, much more than I can chew? Definitely. I had assumptions of all sorts of things, as young people with a lot of ambition do. I've been making the most of it despite that. I have not bought a building in Southbridge in quite some time. In fact, I sold a great deal of the portfolio, properties on Main Street, Central Street, Dean Street, Henry Street, the good ones that were cash flowing but could be sold. We sold a lot of those to raise money to do some of the other projects. The downtown buildings have really been the tough ones. The 320 Main Street, 1 to 11, 66 Central, 70 Central. It's tough, they have the commercial component. It's tough because the banks won't finance them. We did get a small bank to finance 340 Main Street, but that is because we have 13 apartments and 2 commercial spaces. 1 to 11 Central Street has 0 apartments and all commercial space, vacant, except for Fidel's. So that's the situation that we have. We're working within some of the overzealous decisions that we made to buy a lot of real estate in the town that, that I've always felt it is my home. I grew up here until I was 11. I moved to Wales with my parents when I was, about 11. I moved with them. I moved back when I was 18. I lived in 18 Benefit Street, which was a duplex that I bought with a partner of mine. We lived there. We renovated ourselves. We moved on to other buildings. We definitely did get in over our heads. This is some of it coming up, and we're dealing with it as best as we can, given the financial constraints that we have. I hope that the roof has gone